Now that we are proficient with most of the fracturing techniques, let's start creating some serious destruction. Throughout the Total Destruction series, we will be creating this shot from scratch. The idea is to create some fire, smoke, explosions, and to even make this building collapse, and have a finalized shot that you can create and customize for your own demo reel. I will be covering the layout, texturing, and lighting on a separate free video that you can also find through CG Circuit. And on following tutorials, we will start handling the fire, the rigid body dynamics, particles, and fluids. For now, we will start fracturing the building on the left that we will later collapse with a huge explosion. So let's get started. I will switch into a new scene where I have laid down a basic building, and I did this with the then building node. This digital asset will also be provided with the files, and it can be used freely in personal or professional projects. Now, before we start just randomly cutting and fracturing, it's very important to have a very clear idea of what's going to happen in your shot. So first of all, let me show you some reference that I gathered before I even started this project. First of all, let me show you a building collapse created by Main Road Post for the film Stalingrad. This is a very nice example of a building collapsing. It has a lot of elements that I really like. For example, the initial explosion, which creates a lot of smoke and debris, looks very nice. And after that, the building starts falling apart, and you can clearly see some large pieces and also some small scale debris and wood that really sells the shot. So of course, at some point, there's some artistic freedom that you can take, but it's very, very important that you have a very clear idea of what's going to happen in your shot. And not only that, but also the final composition that your shot will have and where the camera will be placed. So let me take a look at some pictures. Most of these pictures are from World War II. I really liked in these two pictures the idea of having a tank, and probably in my shot we were going to have some shells exploding near the tank before the building collapses. But take a look at the level of detail that we have in the destroyed parts of the building. And usually we also see a lot of debris in the ground. Broken wood, broken concrete, bricks, rebar, and iron. So all of these details we'll try to include, of course depending on the time that we have, but the more detail you can add, the better. So let's go back to our scene. And let me show you the camera that we have. So this is a camera I created on the layout process. So this is very important because the angle of the camera and how close or how far we are from the building will give you the cue of where to fracture, where to add more detail, and how to create the cuts to control the collapsing of the building. So let me dive back into the geometry node, and let me show you what I have in mind. I will create an explosion here, and I will have some debris flying more or less towards the right of the screen. And after this big explosion, the building will start colliding downward. So a few more things that I want to prepare are a few frags and fissures here on the columns, more or less like this. This will allow the building to collapse freely in a vertical direction. So I would need to make sure that the fissures go all the way back to the building. And of course, I will need a lot of detail for the debris coming from the explosion. So with this in mind, I will start creating some very localized fractures and pieces to achieve an interesting result.